This program is produced by Eagle Mountain Apostolic Resource Center. To find additional episodes of this program, as well as other content, visit eaglemountain.tv.
I'm going on record right now, I've never had a harebrained idea.
He's had lots of ideas that have hair on them.
Did you just say I've had lots of ideas with hair on them?
Yes. Okay.
Oh my goodness. What?
The devil?
I found him.
Why am I not surprised that he's in here?
He's over here in this bucket. There he is. Mr. Sin! Not bothering us anymore.
How are you doing there, Foxy?
Such a beef wit.
Do you know who you're talking to? I'm Mr. Sin. You can't talk to me like that. You don't have to be rude.
I said beef wit.
Beef wit, that's even worse. No, I'm not a fan of that, but I am a fan of finding out what you're doing after this show. Maybe we could go grab some drinks or something. What do you say?
No thanks.
Hey everyone, welcome to Together We Build. My name is Chris Behnke. I'm here with Prudence O'Haire and the wonderful, magnificent Buckley, who's had a recent haircut and has these really fabulous eyebrows, these visors. What do you call them?
They're advisors.
Advisors?
His advisors.
Only you would even get
Lloyd and Rico.
Lloyd. So just so I understand, you have actually named these eyebrows.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Lloyd and Rico, and they're his advisors.
Right. Not visors.
Can you
advisors.
just help me understand what in the world you're thinking?
No.
Why not? There's no way.
There is no logical
There's
sense
no way
any
to
of
know.
it. Sorry.
There's no way to know. Okay. Well, we're going to get started here in just a second, but we're almost done. Did you know that we're almost done with animal trivia?
We've reached the bottom of the
Yeah,
list.
when you
There's
said I
nothing
want to do
more to
when
learn
you
about
said
animals.
I want to do animal trivia.
Okay.
When you said that, I found 100 animal trivia questions from some random website, and we've been going through that, and we have 97, 98, 99, and 100 left. You ready?
Yep.
You're getting 2 of those on this episode. 2.
Okay. Divvy them up.
Here you go. Question number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after all of this,
Okay.
I cannot have you drop the ball on this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go. What is a group of pigs called?
A potluck?
Oh my goodness. That is the best of all the animal trivia. It was worth it just to have you give that answer. A potluck.
Swine.
Drift.
Oh,
Yeah, potluck is
A drift.
1,000 times better of an answer. 1,000 times better. Okay. Second question. By the way, you get extra credit and you get that correct, even though it wasn't correct, just because potluck is so good. Okay. What is a male turkey called? A male turkey. Not a group of male turkeys, just a single man turkey.
it's a Rudy.
A Rudy.
Yeah.
That's also a really great guess, but it is a gobbler.
Gobbler?
Yeah, gobbler. You have to say it like a villain. Gobbler.
I thought that was just a term for
No, it's the gobbler.
Thanks.
I think the thing you're talking about that you call a gobbler is a made-up word that's not real.
gobbler and
Let me ask Jason.
what did we say the
Jason,
group
that
of
thing
pigs
that
were?
turkeys have, is that called a gobbler? No. No, it's not. See, the jury's in. That is a made-up word.
Okay.
But it's not totally made up because it's actually the name for a male turkey is a gobbler. But you have to say it, the gobbler.
And a group of pigs is called a drift.
A drift. But it should be called a potluck,
That's
100%.
weird.
Should for sure be called a potluck. That is the best answer I think I have ever heard. Okay, so there's just 2 more left. We'll have to do on the next episode. There's just 2 more left. We're going to get into this topic of fear, and I'm super excited about it. But we can't do that until we Is this a vocabulary word?
This is a vocabulary word.
Oh, wait, I never
and
hit the cheers. Here's what you get for potluck. That's for you, Bucklington. Okay, what do you got?
Well, first of all, I just said and we're really working hard to eradicate
The problem
this
is
word.
if you call it out,
I know.
then we're going to stumble over saying
But the folks out there will be amused by it, okay?
So we're working by the end of season 3 to have eliminated
Yes.
I think this is like episode 24. I'm not sure exactly, right around there. So we've got just a few left to fully eliminate the ums. Is it just or is it any kind of
Well, mostly
filler word?
Mostly just that.
Mostly just ums?
That word. Don't say it. It helps you to keep going.
If you say it, the gobbler is going to come around the corner and hit you on the head with a tack hammer.
That would be fun.
All right. What's the
All right,
word?
so we're going to just go over a couple of words that you should know to sound smart. Essential words every sophisticated person should be able to use.
I love that.
So some of these I don't feel very much like a sophisticated person because I can hardly pronounce them. But this is a great book because...
Maybe you need a couple advisors like Buckley has.
Yeah. How about the word paucity? Do you know what this word means?
Paucity?
Paucity.
Paucity.
Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I think that's what it means when a beaver is swimming on its back.
Okay. So paucity is a noun.
Paucity. Back swimming.
A lack of something, a small supply or limited selection.
So this would be my hair is sitting in a paucity situation.
Yes.
Wait, how do we use it?
Okay, here's the sentence that they gave. It is very strange and very melancholy that the paucity of human pleasures should persuade us ever to call hunting one of them.
So that sentence, okay. No. The sentence is getting a no. Oh. Our no is out of batteries.
Sounds like it's got
It's
some
the
problems.
gobbler. That's the gobbler. That's what the gobbler sounds
Okay,
like.
so
No, that sentence is absolutely ridiculous. Read it again.
it is very strange and very melancholy that the paucity of human pleasures should persuade us ever to call hunting one of them.
That sentence is melancholy. Okay, the paucity of my hair is
A lack of
acute
something, a
to
small
everyone.
supply, or limited selection. So
Yes.
we might say this about
definitely limited selection.
many things.
Things that are priced well at Whole Foods.
Yes.
Yes,
that
yes. By the way, you
definitely.
said so let's try to keep those to a minimum, please.
Right. Anything that starts with you.
We are looking for a paucity of us right now.
And
And
it's out. Okay.
or the gobbler is going to come around the corner and hit you on the head with a hammer.
How about
Just try getting it out.
perfervid?
Perfervid. Yes, that is what it means when a beaver swims backwards on its back.
Paucity. I need to write this
Only
down.
in lakes.
No. Perfervid is an adjective. It's overly intense and passionate.
Oh, that's me.
Overblown and dramatic.
No, that's not me. Perfervid. Use it in one of their ridiculous sentences.
Okay. We laughed at the distastefully perfervid love letters that Roland sent to Germaine.
Is that two dudes' names?
No.
Well.
Germaine is a female.
Or her or she?
Well, I assume.
Perfervid.
Paucity.
Paucity.
A lack of something, a small supply or limited selection.
Are you taking notes on this?
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
Because I actually do want to learn new words.
Yeah.
Okay, and perfervid, overly intense and passionate, overblown and dramatic. So instead of using the term dramatic, Chris, you can say perfervid.
You don't have to be so perfervid.
Oh, she is so perfervid.
That will get you a gong. That'll get you there.
All I can say is it's totally fake news.
Perfervid.
It's made up stuff.
Exactly. He's talking about something perfervid.
He's definitely perfervid. All right. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, that was amazing. Amazing. So, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about trivia. We're not talking about perfervid. What we are talking about in this episode is fear.
Yep.
What's in your wallet? I mean, what's in your closet?
What's in your closet?
Fear. Not in my closet, okay? No fear allowed in my closet.
Are we talking about the emotional closet, not your actual closet?
Yeah.
Although some people may have some things in
Is
their
it the closet that Eminem is cleaning out or a different one?
I'm not sure.
So I said, oh my goodness.
Said it.
Every time I say I'm giving myself a cheer.
I'm just going to snap. Let's just snap.
I'd like everyone to watch you snap real quick. How many different beverages do you have over there?
I have regular water, my coffee.
Your drink selection is perfervid.
My servant has made me.
Your drink selection is perfervid.
And
Your servant made you the coffee?
sparkling water.
I made you the coffee. All right, let's dig into this. Bible passages, not having fear. No, not Bible passages. Okay, so I want to talk about fear from a different point of view. So I did a little Google search, and the Google search came up with the top 5 commonly found fears among conservative Christians.
Yeah.
And
Top 5, huh?
yeah, you can also see in this list a little bit of the bias that comes from mainstream search engines, websites, and so forth. Because I typed, what are the top 5 fears found among conservative Christians? And several answers I got back had to do with MAGA.
Uh-huh. Well,
So that's
liberal
interesting.
Christians aren't going to have these fears.
According to Mr. Googleson.
Right.
So I said again.
Maybe we should address liberal Christians.
We're not
next.
addressing that. We're going to go into these top 5. I want to talk about each one.
Okay.
I think I want to start with reading the full list, and then we'll tackle each one at a time. What do you say about that, Prudence?
All right.
First one, loss of cultural and religious influence. Second one, immigration and demographic changes. Third one, government overreach and loss of personal freedoms. Next, economic insecurity. And last, political corruption and distrust in elections. It's very interesting that these are what it came up with. I would have to say that I don't know that this list is off. I think it could be accurate, but it's just a very interesting list. So do you have any overall thoughts, or should we just tackle these one at a time? What do you think?
Conservative Christian.
Yeah, that's what I put in
So,
my search bar.
Yeah. So we need to just make that distinction that we're just talking about these underlying fears of this demographic because, I get 2 snaps for that. 1, 2. And in the same sentence. What I'm
really
saying
disappointed.
is that a lot of Christians may not even think about this stuff.
Right.
So we're addressing conservative
Yes.
Christians.
So do you want to tackle them one at a time, or what are you thinking?
Well,
All right,
definitely not all at once.
And should I read what Google says? Let's try it on the first one.
What exactly are we doing here, by the way?
Well, what I want to do is I think this list is not far off on what, a lot of conservative Christians do fear right now. Obviously, this doesn't cover everything. Obviously, in addition, we really shouldn't fear anything. We should have no fear. We should have zero fears. What that doesn't mean, though, is that we shouldn't be cautious. We shouldn't be aware. We shouldn't be concerned. There's a lot of things that we should be cautious about. There's a lot of things we should be concerned about. There's a lot of things that we should see and not like and want to change. There's a lot of things that we should see and say, hey, in this example, in this situation, I want to be very careful, or I don't want to do this, or I do want to do this because what I'm seeing is dangerous or whatever. So we need to separate fear from wisdom, caution, being smart about situations, feeling and being aware of what God has called us to change in the world. So for example, if one of the fears is the government having too much authority, which one of them is, then we shouldn't live in fear because of that reality. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be aware and concerned about that reality and do something about it, right? So it's about understanding the appropriate response. You agree with that?
Yeah. I don't think that I don't think that having fear is something that we can actually dissipate to a nothing degree, because
A nothing degree.
it is something that is given to us to have discernment over things. Perhaps we need to have a healthy fear of getting too close to the cliff, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we're built with.
There's only two fears you're born with, though. All other fears are learned. The two fears you're born with are loud noises and heights.
Yeah. Well, so the cliff thing fits. But what I'm saying is that it's really we're going to be offered all sorts of temptations in the forms of fears.
Totally.
Right? Isn't that what it is?
Well,
Basically kind of like, here,
Yeah.
now what are you going to do with it?
I think it's super important we're defining this because I think that people are controlled by fear. It's one of Satan's greatest, most effective tools. We're not supposed to live in it, but we also need to define it clearly. So if my 16-year-old son gets in the car with his friend who's also 16 and is a young driver, and that friend is driving the vehicle that he's in recklessly, my son is going to be afraid of the situation. And he's going to say, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of this. Okay.
Yeah.
That isn't the kind of fear we're talking about. I would actually say that's really not fear. That's a concern and awareness of the situation I'm in, that the Lord has given me discernment to stimulate me to make a smart decision. So in that case, you should say, hey, Mr. Friend, pull over, let me out. You're driving like a maniac. I don't feel safe right now. So that would typically be defined as fear. Oh, he's fearful. So I think if you look up a Webster definition of fear, it'll probably fit. But that's really not the fear we're talking about. That, I would say, is actually wisdom, discernment, concern for the environment, and making a smart choice based on the data that's available, which is, this is reckless driving. I need to get out of the car. The fear that we're talking about would be, I believe from that experience, it is not safe for me to ever get in the car again with a young driver. That's living in fear because of a bad experience. And a lot of people might go, that's ridiculous. Of course we shouldn't do that. The problem is a lot of people do decide things.
Shouldn't we
like that.
also consider that fear is really largely a figment of our imagination?
Fear is faith in the unrealized bad outcome that we've identified. So fear is simply faith. I have faith in the unrealized negative outcome that may come from this. So in the car example, it would be, I have faith that I'm going to get into a bad car accident. I have faith in that, and that is preventing me from getting in the vehicle. So that's what that is. Now, you have to distinguish that. It might be wise to not get in the vehicle. So you say, this driver has a proven track record of being a poor driver. I'm going to make a decision to not get in their car. That's wisdom. Saying, I don't feel like I can drive in cars ever again because I had this bad experience because I got in an accident this one time.
Is letting the fear control you.
That's the wrong side of fear that we want.
So we're talking about letting the fears control us.
Exactly.
And dictate how we do or don't do something.
100%. So let's talk about the first one. Loss of cultural and religious influence.
Okay. So this is a fear.
Well, here's what Google said. Here's what Google said according to, this is just so apparent, the bias, but listen to this. Loss of cultural and religious influence. I believe that's I believe they got it right. That is a fear of a lot of conservative Christians. Here's what they say about it, though. Google does. Many conservative Christians and MAGA supporters fear that the decline of Christian values and cultural influence in America. This includes concerns about the erosion of traditional family values and the perception that Christianity is under attack from liberal policies and social changes. You can just feel the soaked nature of that response. They're shining a light on that as if that is a really horrible thing. And I would say that we should not fear the loss of culture and religious influence to the point where it is negatively affecting our decisions, like we've been talking about. We don't want to be living in fear. However, we do want to have a healthy concern for what's happening in our nation.
Yeah.
The nation was founded on biblical Christian values and has enjoyed the success of that foundation that has been greater than any nation that has ever existed, with the potential exception of Solomon. That's it. So the kingdom principles that God has outlined, that our country was founded on, have afforded us the success that no other nation has ever been able to experience in all of humanity. Now, don't mishear me, don't misquote me. I'm not saying that everything about our founding fathers was flawless. I'm not saying everything about the way the country exists and the way people manage it is flawless. There's all kinds of things that need to be improved. But generally speaking, this country was founded with Christian values, and those are being eroded, and that is a reasonable thing to be concerned about.
Okay. So let's address what do you do with the concern, with the fear that this is going away? What should we be doing with this rather than twiddling our thumbs, basically getting just upset and angry at what is happening? Are you asking what our response should be? Yeah. How do we work through this?
So we've been talking about, the fear. We don't want to respond in a way of fear where the fear is controlling us. However, what is the right response? And I would say, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Prudence, but I feel like obviously I believe every single person is called to one or more areas of influence, one or more areas of society. Some people call this 7 mountains and so forth, but basically at the highest level, it's God has designed us on purpose, for a purpose, to go make disciples of nations, to bring his kingdom to the world. Yeah. And if we're called to like a sphere of government, then we should be directly impacting government. But what if we're not called to a sphere of government? This is still something that's concerning. And what I would say, there's probably a whole bunch of things, but right off the top, we need to be aware of what's actually happening.
Yes. We all have a responsibility to be aware of what is happening in our society.
Yeah.
And
we are going to be ineffective. You had 2. We're going to be ineffective at making a change towards kingdom principles if we're unaware of the enemy's devices.
So it does need to start with being aware.
Yes.
Also being aware of where you're called to help support our society, our country, your state, or whatever it is, needs to also be in the we need to figure out, well, what am I supposed to do about this? Am I supposed to be doing something about this?
Yeah.
And taking actionable steps.
Yeah, 100%.
To get the job done.
Yes.
Let's not sit and whine and carry on about how these things are being taken away. Let's put some action behind fixing the issue if there is an issue to fix.
Yeah, I believe
and
what I hear you saying
support
is
each other.
We need less finger pointing, more action.
Yes. I think that it's easy for us to believe that we can do nothing because we're just a stay-at-home mom or someone who, well, that's the mindset,
Yeah.
is believing that we're just this person.
Yeah.
When in fact, each of us is actually a lighter with a fire at the end.
Oh, yeah.
We are a matchstick with a fire that can burn down a forest.
Oh, yeah. I believe that it is an actual curse. The justa is an actual curse that the enemy uses to convince you that your station in life, your influence, who you are, actually doesn't have the ability to affect change because you're just a stay-at-home mom, or you're just a barista at Starbucks, or you're just a this, or you're just a that. And by the way, every person has a justa. You could be president of the United States and say, well, I'm just the president of this one country. The justa curse kind of goes at every single level. And it's actually a complete lie, because here's the reality. The reality is that God has purposed every person to play a role. Those roles all have to work together. So we actually need to connect together, and through the connection together, we have incredible strength. This is a very simple,
and not
biblical
all of
principle.
us are called to eradicate a lot of this, to correct, if I may use that term.
Right.
Not all of us are called to jump into the court systems or to be the lawyer that brings it to the courts.
Totally.
But we're all called to be aware and responsible in that format, to have discernment, to have wisdom, and to know when and where we can support the person that is attempting to do this.
Right.
Because we have to come together as a support system.
Right. Right. 100%. I think that we have to be careful to not say, well, that's not my job. Because I think a lot of times this may be, might not be called to some specific thing for your whole passion, your whole focus of your whole life. That doesn't mean that you don't also bear some responsibility for affecting change. Being aware, understanding what's happening, being playing the role and participating at the level that you can where you are. So, for example, everybody needs to vote. A lot of the things that are on this will be tied back to this whole list, will be tied back to political agenda and so forth. So most of these things can be affected through voting, can be affected, and even if there's not a specific law, can be affected through the voting of the right representatives to be put in place to actually affect change in the right direction. But even more important than that is being aware and making sure the people in your circle are also aware of what's really happening. Because let's be real, most people vote like they shop for wine. You know how most people shop for wine? Because very few people know anything about wine. So most people don't drink a lot of wine. They don't know anything about wine. And so they go to the Safeway or wherever, and they look at the shelf, and if you're 5'10", you're looking at the 5'10" shelf, and then they scan, and then they pick the one that has the best label. That's it. And maybe they know the difference between some of the grapes. That's all. So wine sellers know this, and they actually pay money to have their bottles put at eye level because they actually know nobody knows anything. And that's how most people
when we're talking
vote.
about the subject of voting, sometimes it's overwhelming to actually know who to vote for. Maybe you're like, I have no idea.
Right.
I'm just do what you randomly do. Like, close your eyes and circle in the button, the little bubble.
Or vote for the R or
but
the D or whatever.
Something that you can do.
Yeah.
And when you're faced with more choices than A or B,
right,
is find someone in your circle that is wise to what's happening in your political sphere.
Right.
Ask them their advice on which candidates they feel is the best option.
And why.
And maybe base your decision more off of that.
Yeah.
Rather than
I would say whatever they say, follow that up with a little bit of research.
Well, sure. But what I'm saying is that we have people around us that specialize in different spheres.
For sure.
And you don't have to feel like you're just out on your own and you have to go spend 12 hours doing a bunch of research.
Yeah.
You can layer it upon somebody's advice that you trust.
Totally. What was that movie? Vote for Jeff Johnson, the name you know? Eddie Murphy?
No, that wasn't the name of the movie. That was just in it.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
So this movie, it's the reason we need to understand, because this movie is so hilarious. I think it was an Eddie Murphy movie, but basically his name was Jeff Johnson, and there was a long-term politician whose name was Jeff Johnson. Jeff Johnson, the politician, died. So this guy was a scam artist, and he said, we're just going to run on this guy's ticket.
Yeah, he assumed the identity.
He assumed the identity, and his whole campaign was vote for Jeff Johnson, the name you know, because people had been voting for Jeff Johnson, and he got in and he won. The thing that makes that movie hilarious is that's the way people vote.
Yeah.
Like that could totally 100% happen.
Yes. So, okay, I think we kind of covered that one.
Okay, so we basically are out of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to break this into two parts. We're going to go after the next ones in the next part of this series. But I think it's important, just from a high level, to understand we are not saying run through life not caring, having a no fear attitude and wearing, remember the no fear shirts from the 90s?
Yeah.
We're not saying that. You got to be smart. You got to have discernment. You got to be wise. You got to be concerned about stuff. But it's the wisdom and the awareness, the concern, the data, the information, the wise choices and the knowledge, all that stuff is what should be.
The alignment with Holy Spirit.
And the alignment with Holy Spirit.
To help bring it, like he is the bow around all of that.
He is the bow around that beautiful package.
He ties it up.
That's how we should be making decisions, not the emotional fear-based response.
Right.
So we're not saying these things that are sometimes labeled as fear, we're not saying those are bad. A lot of times discernment or concern or kind of like a hesitancy about something, that's labeled as fear. That's not what we're talking about. Those things are necessary and important. We're talking about when your life is controlled by fear, your decisions are made by fears that are not actually reasonable, and you might need someone's help to determine what's reasonable because they might feel reasonable to you. That's what we're talking about. And as Christians, we are specifically outlined in the Bible called to not live with a spirit of fear. And I think the reason that God has outlined that so clearly is because it's a powerful tool the enemy uses. So we need to be aware of this.
Right.
Which is why I think this is so important. So we're going to dig into, so the first fear that went after today was loss of cultural and religious influence. And I think that that's a valid thing to be concerned about. It's not a valid thing to let run your life. But as Christians, we need to understand and recognize that Jesus is not the president of the United States, the savior of the United States. He's the savior of the whole world. But we need to also recognize that our country, the United States, was built on a Christian foundation. And so while it's important to keep all of that in perspective, I think it's valid and important to recognize the concern that these kingdom principles outlined by Scripture, the way that this country is founded, have afforded it this incredible impact in the world. So we don't want to lose that. We need to be smart about it. Kingdom. God's will, God's way, right? Prudence, am I right? Mm-hmm. So with that, we're going to wrap this up. If you would like to learn more about this show is called Together We Build, or see any of the other episodes, go to eaglemountain.global. You can see everything there. You can also find information about everything that Prudence and myself are doing at chrisandprudence.com. You can find all the episodes there. And if you want to reach out to us, definitely hit the contact button. Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to support us, you can do that as well. So anything else? I think that's it.
Like, share, subscribe.
But don't say like or Just like, share, subscribe, but don't say or
No, I didn't say
like.
it. I didn't say it.
Perfect.
No, I'm not lying.
I'm giving you the cheer. With that, we will see you on the next episode. See ya. Thank you for watching Together We Build with Chris and Prudence. To learn more about this and other amazing programs, visit eaglemountain.global. To learn more about Chris and Prudence and the ministries they serve, visit chrisandprudence.com.